الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا. من يهدي الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وخاتم رسله. أشهد أنه قد بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح للأمة فكشف الله به الأمة وجاهد في الله حق جهاده حتى تركنا على المحجة البيضاء على الطريقة الواضحة السمحاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. فصلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وعلى أزواجه أمهات المؤمنين وعلى أصحابه الغر الميامين وعلى تابعيهم ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله ولزوم طاعته لقوله تعالى: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله ولتنظر نفس ما قدمت لغد واتقوا الله إن الله خبير بما تعملون. My dear brothers in Islam, I remind you and I remind myself foremost to have taqwa of Allah, to take heed of the wrath of disobeying Allah, for He is the one who said, "O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah and let every soul look to what it has presented for tomorrow," meaning the day of judgment, and have taqwa of Allah one more time. Allah is verily well acquainted with what you do. By now you know that we are discussing a series called Rooting Islam in Our Contemporary Life, and I always have to apologize because it's a kind of an abstract topic. It's like talking about global warming. It is something that is not gonna happen now. You don't really feel it right now, and no matter whatever you do, whether you do the best that you can do at great sacrifices or you don't do anything, you're not gonna see results. And that's the bad thing about chronic diseases like diabetes, is that it kind of grows on you, and it takes time, but by the time it becomes manifest, it's already too late, to correct the damage that has been done. So I feel that the Muslim Ummah is undergoing this kind of tectonic, change. But nevertheless, because the subject matter is very important and the consequences are very grave, I have sort of dedicated, all my efforts to alert, as many people as possible about the dangers and how we can remedy the situation. So basically, the plan, from 30,000 feet, is that we want to change the mindset of Muslims. The way Europe changed their mindset from the medieval ages into the modern ages. They have done fantastic progress, material progress, even though in the end this material progress is failing at all fronts in terms of wars. Financially, there is either massive inflations or massive recessions. There are epidemics. There is global warming. On all fronts. But nevertheless, the process of the change itself happens when people change the way they think, whether to the better or to the worse. But significant changes happen when they change the way they think. But we don't have to go far away to look for examples in other nations. Let's look at our own experience. We Muslims, 1400 plus years ago, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, single-handedly using nothing but the Quran itself, was able to achieve such a momentous social transformation that you all know about. So what happened? How was this possible? We know it was through the Quran, and we know that the Quran was able to transform those primitive Bedouin Arabs largely by its literal eloquence. It changed something in their hearts and it transformed them. So nowadays, maybe we, even Arab speakers, don't have the taste of the language that makes them, transformed by the eloquence of the Quran. But luckily, the Quran is miraculous in every aspect, social, psychological, scientific, financial, in every aspect, that now that we have seen, so many changes in the world, and we have seen what works and what doesn't work, we should be transformed, by the Quran and how it clarifies a clear path for us to pursue in order to achieve salvation. So I know this is abstract thinking, and I know you guys like stories, so I'm gonna give you a story. I'm gonna give you even a quiz, so that it's easy. They say a picture is better than 1,000 words, so a story is better, hopefully, than 1,000 words. And it's a Quranic quiz, so pay attention, okay? Because you have to do your thinking and your homework. And it is a story that all of you know very well, and it's from the surah of Yusuf alayhi salam. You all know the story, so I'm not going to go into too many introductions. But after the brothers went to Egypt because there was a famine, so they went to Egypt to get some rations, and when they went back, they told their dad, Yaqub alayhi salam, Israel, they told him, you have to send with us our brother, Benjamin, so that, because the secretary of the treasurer, which they didn't know was Yusuf, their brother, does not give rations except to individuals who are present. So they give them 2 bushels of wheat. So he said, no, I'm not gonna send Benjamin with you, because you're gonna lose him the way you have lost Yusuf before. And then they opened the rations, and they found that the silverware that they were taking in order to exchange for the food is there. So they told him, look, Dad, this secretary of the treasury is a very kind guy, and you really have to send our brother with us. And then he said, okay, fine, I'm gonna send him. So this is the introduction to the story. So now the quiz starts, so pay attention. This is the Quran now speaking. وَقَالَ يَا بَنِيَّ, and he said, Yaqub alayhi salam, Israel, said to his sons, oh my dear sons, لا تدخلوا من باب واحد. Do not enter from one gate. The city, the capital of Egypt in northeast, delta, in the northeast of the delta, about maybe 60 kilometers northeast of Cairo, had, old cities, they have ramparts, walls around them, and then they have gates, and they close the gates by sunset, and they open them by sunrise to protect them from attacks from outside. So he said, they were 11 brothers. He said, don't enter from one gate, enter from different gates. So the city has 5 or 6 or 7 gates. Even Cairo, the old city in Cairo has about 6 or 7 gates. Now the Quran does not tell us why he asked them that. But maybe, based on our culture, based on their culture at the time, maybe he was afraid they were going to be jinxed, or maybe they would alert the attention of the authorities. Who are these guys, and maybe they are coming to make some trouble, whatever. They're not from town, whatever it is. But apparently that's not very important, because the Quran didn't go into that. So that's a detail we're not going to pay attention to. But he told them, do not enter from one gate and enter from several gates. Divide yourselves among the gates, and every 2 or 3 will enter from one gate. And then he told them something very strange. And he said, وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. By the mere fact that you are going to enter from different gates, this is not going to protect you from anything. Which, raises the first question. If it's not going to protect us from anything, why are you asking us to enter from different gates, right? So he says, وَمَا أُغْنِي عَنْكُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. All affairs are in the hands of Allah. Whatever Allah will decide is going to happen. Whether you take precautions, you don't take precautions, it doesn't make any difference. إِنِ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. I put my affairs in His hands. وَعَلَيْهِ فَلْيَتَوَكَّلِ الْمُتَوَكِّلُونَ. And all those who, believers should put their faith and their, trust in His hands. Okay? So very strange. And then the Quran speaks from the first person. The Quran narrates, وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُم. And they listened to him, and they did what he asked them to do. And the Quran is saying, and when they actually entered in the same fashion that he has ordered them to enter, وَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا مِنْ حَيْثُ أَمَرَهُمْ أَبُوهُم مَا كَانَ يُغْنِي عَنْهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. The Quran is verifying and confirming and affirming what their dad has already told them, that is not going to make any difference. So it's very strange. Maybe Yaqub was mistaken. Maybe he had a strange idea that has no basis. So the Quran says, مَا كَانَ يُغْنِي عَنْهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ إِلَّا, except حَاجَةً فِي نَفْسِ يَعْقُوبَ قَضَاهَا. Something in the mind, not in the mind, in the soul of Yaqub alayhi salam, that he wanted to fulfill. So there was something, there was a reason, even though we don't know the reason, but there is a reason. Okay? Now, we might think, okay, maybe, he believes in omen, like if you wear something red, something good is going to happen to you. If you wear something blue, something bad is going to, like superstition, maybe, right? But then the Quran, knows that we might be thinking along those lines. And the Quran immediately tells us, وَإِنَّهُ, and he, لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَا عَلَّمْنَا, but he really knows what we have taught him. وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَا عَلَّمْنَا, meaning that whatever he asked them to do is based on knowledge. It's not based on any superstition or any whim or any sort of vague desire. No, he is telling them, based on knowledge. وَإِنَّهُ لَذُو عِلْمٍ لِمَا عَلَّمْنَا. Pay attention. وَلَكِنَّ, but أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Most people do not know. And the question now, this is your quiz, what is the thing that the Quran is referring to that most people do not know? Okay? So basically he told them, let's summarize. He told them to take precautions, right? He didn't tell them why. He told them to take precautions, but then he told them at the same time, no matter what precautions you take, whatever Allah has decided is going to happen. So of course we believe that. So then why would we take precautions, right? That is the question that the Quran says most people don't know. And this is the question that we will approach in the second part of the khutbah. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم البر لا يبلى والذنب لا ينسى والديان لا يموت اعمل ما شئت كما تدين تدان أو كما قال التائب من الذنب كمن لا ذنب له. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. Now the answer to the riddle is very simple, and you all know it, and I know if I ask for answers you will all come up with the right answer, which is that we Muslims believe that all affairs are in the hands of Allah, right? But in the meantime, we all believe that we have to strive, to do our best, and this is like our jihad. In Arabic, it is called al-akhdh bil-asbab, and in English, maybe it can be loosely translated as walking the talk. You have to strive to do your best, but in the meantime, be cognizant and aware that in the end, Allah will do, what Allah has decided, and everything is predetermined. This concept is a very difficult concept, right? And only Islam gives us this answer on like a silver plate. But think about the ideology of other non-Muslims. It is one of two things. If their thinking is material, they will say, okay, when you ride the car, you have to strap yourself. Why do you have to strap yourself? You have to strap yourself because the statistics say that if you sustain a car crash, your chances of surviving or having less injuries are much better if you are strapped in your seat, and if you have a car, the airbag, then if you don't, right? These two. So it is a very scientific, rational, empirical evidence that tells you that you have to strap yourself. Anybody who's going to look at the data is going to say, yeah, of course. Actually, as a matter of fact, I am a pathologist, right? So when I was doing my residency, we have to do a rotation in the office of the medical examiner, the forensic pathology, right? We had to do 1 month there, and everybody who came on the table dead from a car crash did not have their seat belt. At that time, there were no airbags, but at least they didn't have a seat belt. I'm sure there must be people that died who had their seat belts, but I didn't see them. The ones that I saw, they didn't have their seat belts, and the stories are very sad. Some of them will hit the front, the dashboard, or the windshield, and the car will turn over them and their neck will be broken. I mean, all very sad stories. But that's the reality, right? So it's difficult, it's very easy to relate to that. However, religious people, Muslims and non-Muslims, know in the end that it is in the hands of Allah. And it is very possible, we know that, that a passenger who may not have may not be strapped in their seat, may sustain a car crash, a fatal car crash, and be unscathed without any injury, and the driver who is sitting next to him with being strapped in their seat with the seat belt will die. It can happen, right? We know that, and we see it also all the time, and we know that in the end it is something that is predestined, predetermined, and it is in the hand of Allah. So how can we, like, it is very easy to say, okay, I believe you have to, strap yourself in your seatbelt, or I believe, someone else who might say, no, it's in the hands of Allah, khalas, if Allah wants me to die, I will die, and if Allah doesn't want me to die, I will not die. But except Islam tells you that you have to strap yourself, and in the meantime, you have to have the full conviction, 200%, that it is in the hands of Allah. And the explanation for that is very interesting, and only Islam gives this explanation, which we will discuss in the next khutbah, inshallah, if Allah wills and gives us life, inshallah. اللهم اغفر لنا واهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا لمن اهتدى. اللهم اجعل جمعنا هذا جمعا مرحوما وتفرقنا من بعده تفرقا معصوما، ولا تجعل فينا ولا بيننا شقيا ولا محروما. اللهم لا تجعل لنا في هذا اليوم العظيم المبارك ذنبا إلا غفرته، ولا ميتا إلا رحمته، ولا مريضا إلا شفيته، ولا ضالا إلا هديته، ولا عائلا إلا أغنيته، ولا مكروبا إلا نفست كربه، ولا مهموما إلا أذهبت همه، ولا مديونا إلا قضيت دينه، ولا مجاهدا إلا نصرته، ولا مظلوما إلا أيدته، ولا مسافرا إلا سالما غانما وقد رددته، ولا حاجة من حوائج الدنيا لنا فيها خير ولك فيها رضا إلا قضيتها ويسرتها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأعلي بفضلك كلمتي الحق والدين. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه، وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى. اللهم قيد لهذه الأمة أمر رشد يعز فيه أهل طاعتك ويهدى فيه أهل معصيتك ويؤمر فيه بالمعروف وينهى فيه عن المنكر. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من عين لا تدمع وقلب لا يخشع ونفس لا تقنع وعلم لا ينفع ودعاء لا يستجاب. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات، إنك سميع قريب مجيب الدعوات يا رب العالمين. عباد الله، إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي، يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله يذكركم واستغفروه يغفر لكم وأقم الصلاة.